It's 8 o'clock.
Good morning. This is Northern Light for Wednesday, October 11th. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe.
After Hamas's attack of the state of Israel over the weekend, Governor Hochul is stepping up security at synagogues and Jewish community centers.
More communication between jihadist groups and white supremacist groups and other extreme groups, neo-Nazi groups here in the United States and some in New York.
A total solar eclipse is going to pass over the North Country next April, and leaders in regional tourist towns say its economic impact is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for those communities.
Convincing business owners that normally don't open until mid-May, hey, you don't have to open in April and stay open necessarily, but you definitely want to consider this.
And a new book takes a look at life in the North Country's border communities during Prohibition.
The story I really liked in this book was the entrepreneur in Ogdensburg who sold liquor to farmers who were on their way back from walking their livestock to the slaughterhouse at Lighthouse Point.
Betsy Capus joins us to review booze, bad boys, and bootleggers coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us.
Broadcast of Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio is supported by Mountain Orthotic and Prosthetic Services, a full-service practice committed to providing care for patients of all ages, with offices in Lake Placid, Plattsburgh, and Malone. Details and referrals at mountainonp.com. And Blue Seat Studios, Saranac Lake, promoting community involvement in the arts on the web at bluseatstudios.org. And it's our fall fundraiser. And news director David Summerstein is here.
Good morning, Todd. Good morning, Monica. Good morning, listener. Thank you so much for joining us here on Northern Light. I'm just taking a minute to encourage you to get to your phone or get to your laptop and make your donation for our fall fundraiser. ncpr.org/give or call 1-877-388-6277. It's because of your generous donations in past fundraisers that have allowed us to hire a new community engagement reporter to ask our listeners and our audience around the North Country what matters to you, what you think the most important issues are for us to be covering. It's also allowed us to keep a Plattsburgh bureau, an Adirondack bureau, a St. Lawrence Valley bureau, newly staffed by our new reporter, Catherine Wheeler. We can only do it, and we can only do this flagship regional news show because of your donations. 877-388-6277 or email on or make a donation online at ncpr.org/give. And I want to say just one more thing before we go to Northern Light. You have people all around the North Country who are helping to do this, who are giving $25 or $50 or $150, $10 a month, whatever it is. You have people in Plattsburgh this morning who have donated, Glens Falls, Gouverneur who have donated, people in Punta Gorda, Florida who have donated, Scottsville, Potsdam, Bolton Landing, the Bronx. People have all made a donation this morning because they value this service, they value local news, putting a spotlight on issues and people in the North Country. We can only do it with your donation. So you be one of those people in the place where you live. Let's announce where you are, in Saranac Lake, in Canton, in Watertown, in Plattsburgh. Make your donation now, ncpr.org/give. Now on to Northern Light.
This is Northern Light. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe. New York Governor Kathy Hochul says state police are increasing security at synagogues, yeshivas, Jewish community centers, and other at-risk sites in the wake of the deadly attacks on the state of Israel by Hamas over the weekend. Karen DeWitt has more.
The stepped-up measures come after state security officials gave Hochul an updated briefing Tuesday on potential threats to Jewish sites. Speaking at Congregation Beth Ameth in Albany on Monday night, the governor promised to do everything possible to protect people.
I assure you, as the governor, I'll make sure that we will leave no stone unturned to find out how we can make sure that every single one of you is safe when you gather, because that is your God-given right. to exercise your belief, your religion, your true identity.
Hochul says her Office of Homeland Security is also monitoring social media for evidence of hate speech and potential threats that stem from the attacks. Speaking at New York City's Columbus Day Parade, she urged social media companies to step up and be vigilant.
You're watching very closely because there have been more communication between jihadist groups and white supremacist groups and other extreme groups, neo-Nazi groups here in the United States and some in New York. So we're constantly watching, keeping an eye on that situation to make sure that there's nothing that we should be aware of.
Hochul says there are no active threats to New York State at this time. In Albany, I'm Karen DeWitt.
The North Country's representatives in Washington have expressed their support for Israel following Hamas's attacks. In a statement, Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik said she's committed to ensuring the Israeli people have the resources they need to defend themselves. And Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is urging the Department of Defense to provide full military aid to Israel and to fund U.S.-Israeli missile defense programs.
A coalition of environmentalists is urging Governor Hochul to include a measure that would require polluters to pay for New York's climate adaptation projects in her upcoming state budget. WSHU's J.D. Allen reports the measure was stalled last legislative session.
By 2030, climate change is expected to cost New York an estimated $55 billion. The Climate Change Superfund Act could shift the responsibility of paying for shoreline restoration and other climate-resilient infrastructure projects to the fossil fuel industry and other corporate polluters. Margaret Marr is a Long Island volunteer with Food and Water Watch.
Climate change is devastating. As a grandmother, I worry about my grandson and future grandchildren. How can these innocents be burdened with devastation of climate change brought on by big oil, and nothing is really being done?
Marr joined environmental protests in Mineola as well as Buffalo and Albany to urge the governor to support the measure. The fossil fuel industry opposes the measure, which would make them pay a combined $3 billion a year. For North Country Public Radio, I'm J.D. Allen.
Starting January 1st, New Yorkers applying for public assistance programs will have an X-gender option on applications. The New York Civil Liberties Union settled a 2021 lawsuit with the state. They argued that non-binary people had to lie under oath by declaring themselves as male or female on forms or be denied benefits. Now, the state's public assistance and health agencies will have X as a gender option on applications for services like SNAP or child care assistance. It's already an option on New York State birth certificates and driver's licenses.
Any good politician draws from their life experiences when they speak to an audience. But as WNYC's John Campbell reports, New York Governor Kathy Hochul has a particular way of making things personal.
On MSNBC's Morning Joe last month, a panelist asked Governor Hochul about the wave of migrants coming to New York City with their children.
I'm a mother. This is personal to me.
In August, she cut the ribbon on a child care facility.
This is personal to me as a brand new governor.
Then there was the time she announced funding to spruce up downtown areas in upstate cities.
This is personal to me.
Hochul is New York's first female governor and the first governor from upstate in more than a century. With that comes a unique set of experiences that makes some topics more personal. Since she took office 2 years ago, Hochul has sprinkled variations of that phrase into her speeches more than 24 times, according to transcripts from her office. It's often accompanied by an anecdote drawing from her experience as a working mother or growing up in the Buffalo area, like this one when she was discussing environmental funding.
This is personal to me. I grew up near a steel plant. I saw what happened when Bethlehem Steel, where my dad and grandpa worked. They were good-paying jobs, but you could see the orange clouds everywhere.
But then there are times when it's a little less serious, like when she declared war on potholes.
This is personal to me.
Or when she cut the ribbon on a baseball stadium.
This is personal to me.
Sarita Perry is a former speechwriter for President Obama. She says drawing on personal experience is a way for leaders to connect with their audience.
When you're talking about policies and programs, what you're talking about is people. And maybe you are, as a leader or as the person speaking, one of those people. And so that can absolutely give you some credibility.
Most elected officials have their go-to lines to connect with voters. President Biden says,
Look, folks.
former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio would often say,
brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters.
But for female leaders, crafting a public persona is a tougher needle to thread. That's according to Christina Greer, a political science professor at Fordham University. She says Hochul and other women in power face sexism, so they're held to a higher standard.
She has to sort of create a larger vision where she's tough, but not too tough, where she intimidates people. She has to be soft, but not too soft, where people don't think that she's a leader. These are all the things that women have to go through when they're running for office.
Hochul's office says the governor's work is informed by her personal experience. In a statement, a spokesperson said, quote, New Yorkers know Governor Hochul is one of them, and she'll continue sharing her story with them every chance she gets. John Campbell, North Country Public Radio.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. It's 11 minutes past 8. Good morning. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Coming up, our book reviewer, Betsy Capus, reviews a new book about what life was like in our border communities during the Prohibition years back in the 1920s. That conversation coming up in just a few minutes right here on Northern Light, where we are in the midst of our fall fundraiser. Here to tell us a little bit more about it is David Summerstein.
Good morning, listeners. Good morning, Todd and Monica. I want to talk about today's prize drawing. You know, the weather is getting dicier and dicier, and we have a Wi-Fi weather station with outdoor sensor that we're going to be giving away, an all-in-one monitoring system. It's kind of like having a mesonet in your own house if you're into like mesonet kind of things. I know like weather people like to geek out on that. So when you make your donation right now at ncpr.org/give or call us 1-877-388-6277, you'll be entered into today's prize drawing that we're going to give at the end of the day today for a Wi-Fi weather station with outdoor sensor, all-in-one monitoring system. Very cool. A very just quick way that we kind of, you know, raise the excitement and say, hey, get your name in the hat, have a chance to win, but make sure that you're doing the heavy lifting. Just $25 at a time, $50 a time, $150 a time to pay for local journalism, to keep voices like Todd and Monica giving you the weather, the events, the community calendar, the arts coverage, the culture coverage. ncpr.org/give, 1-877-388-6277. You're making it happen $1 at a time. Thank you so much for your donations.
Sal Sarmiento, Potsdam guitarist. He's part of our Underscore project, and you can hear more of his music online, ncpr.org/underscore. And then make a gift. Support regional musicians in the North Country. You hear their music every weekday morning during Northern Light. That's worth a contribution. ncpr.org/give or 877-388-6277. Northern Light is supported by St. Lawrence Nurseries, Potsdam, accepting orders now through April 12th for cold, hardy fruit and nut trees. Details at slngrow.com. And North Country Children's Museum, Potsdam, with hands-on and minds-on exhibits and programs for children 12 and under and their families. Open Wednesday to Sunday, 10 to 5. NorthCountryChildren'sMuseum.org.
On Monday, April 8th, a total solar eclipse will pass over the North Country. The area is expected to be flooded with visitors looking to watch the moon come between the Earth and the sun. Catherine Wheeler reports that while the big event only lasts a couple of minutes, communities are preparing months in advance for the opportunity of a lifetime.
Total solar eclipses don't come around here often.
In our area, it will not happen again in New York State until 2144. The last time was 1925.
That's Catherine Palayo of the St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce. The chamber recently hosted an online presentation on the eclipse, already psyching up the community for the big day. Palaio says it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance to make a big impact.
The economic benefits are going to be significant. They're going to be passing through our area to stop for gas, to get for food. People coming from Canada, if they don't select St. Lawrence County as their destination, they're still going to be bypassing us.
The eclipse is big business, according to data collected after a total solar eclipse crossed the U.S. in 2017. Hotels in the path of totality were fully booked. Restaurants ran out of food. Roads were full of travelers. A University of Michigan study says about 20 million adults left their home area to get a better view. Palaio says it's not only about getting people here for the day. The chamber wants to figure out ways to bring people the weekend before the eclipse and to stay for a while after it's over.
It's only 2 hours and 30 minutes of the event. People come for it, but they want to make an opportunity of the event itself. So they're going to be coming a few days earlier, booking hotels a few days earlier, trying to find different attractions to go to and experience the area that they're going to experience totality in.
Some North Country communities are already rising to the occasion.
We really want to use that weekend to introduce ourselves to a lot of folks that maybe wouldn't come out here normally.
Mary Grace Duncan is helping with the eclipse push in Sackett's Harbor on the shore of Lake Ontario.
And then just make sure that, we're kind of presenting all of these great fun activities and types of resources we're going to have as like one kind of united. Sackett's is a great place to be.
Sackett's Harbor isn't typically a destination for splashy national events. So Mayor Alex Morja says they're using this heaven-sent opportunity to sell new visitors on Sackett's. They even created a website, SackettsEclipse.com.
I think we're going to see a lot of people coming to us on their own, and it's our job to maximize the value and handle it well and present our community in a way that is attractive for them to come back to.
One problem. Sackett's Harbor is largely seasonal, and April is before the season starts. Morja says he's been getting in touch with those seasonal businesses. Some have already started planning for weekend parties and live music.
Convincing business owners that normally don't open until mid-May, hey, you don't have to open in April and stay open necessarily, but you definitely want, to consider this. That's something they have to decide early. They have to plan for staffing.
But Morja says the weather is the biggest unknown. This past April, it was abnormally warm on April 8th. Other years, there's been a foot of snow on the ground.
We unfortunately can't use a lot of our outdoor venues. They may be in play, but we won't know that until about 10 days before. So the focus has been on making sure that we maximize the spaces that we can rely on, which are all the indoor businesses.
The St. Lawrence County's Chamber of Commerce says the possibilities are endless. Eclipse-themed menus, Eclipse cocktails, and staking out your Eclipse parking lots. They say the more events, the better to attract all of those tourists looking for the best view. Catherine Wheeler, North Country Public Radio.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Coming up in just a minute, how our North Country communities responded to the Prohibition Act 100 years ago. That conversation in just a couple of minutes. Then stick around after the show for Bird Note. We'll hear a little bit about the mating dance of the grebe. That's just ahead at 8:42. But first, Todd has a look at the weather for us.
Yeah, it looks like cloudy conditions continuing right into early next week at this point. Today, mostly cloudy, scattered showers, highs in the 50s, maybe a high near 60 in places like Glens Falls, Lake George. Light winds out of the south-southwest. Scattered showers likely tonight as well. 30s and 40s for overnight lows. And tomorrow, about a 40-50% chance of scattered showers, highs in the 50s. Friday and Saturday, mostly cloudy, low 50s for highs, winds out of the west-northwest. Right now in Canton, clouds and 47 degrees.
Just over 100 years ago, with the passing of the National Prohibition Act, producing and buying alcohol became illegal in the United States. But Canada did not have such a law.
In his new book, Booze, Bad Boys, and Bootleggers, James Reagan writes of the North Country's border communities during Prohibition. And our book reviewer, Betsy Capus, stopped by to talk with me about his book.
Todd, the National Prohibition Act went into effect in 1920. Promoters of Prohibition believed that by outlawing the manufacturing and sale of alcohol, people would stop drinking. There would be no more nuisance drunks, no more fathers who drank up their paychecks, and no more alcohol-related accidents.
Right. If only, it was all that simple.
Yeah, and of course it wasn't. And not everyone believed that alcohol was such a great evil. In fact, like 50% of adults did not. So for some people in the North Country, Prohibition became a time to make extra money. They'd hide a few crates of Canadian whiskey in the back of their cars and drive it to a downstate to a buyer. Or they sold a few bottles from their homes. The story I really liked in this book was the entrepreneur in Ogdensburg who sold liquor to farmers who were on their way back from walking their livestock to the slaughterhouse at Lighthouse Point.
Huh. But, didn't these people get caught?
Well, you couldn't check every car that went by, even if the police wanted to, and they didn't always want to. So smuggling alcohol could also be a big business. In August of 1920, police intercepted cases of Canadian whiskey and gin coming into Ogdensburg. They traced it and investigated and discovered 1,000 cases of liquor in a Canadian ship that had docked across from Lisbon.
Well, that's 1,000 cases?
Yeah, it was worth some astronomical amount. Yeah. So after that, the U.S. government sent a Coast Guard ship with a crew of 64 seamen to patrol the St. Lawrence River. And they also sent 5 federal agents called G-men to Ogdensburg.
And so did they find more bootleggers?
Oh, yeah, there were many. Even in New York City, people were aware of the vast amount of smuggling that was going on in the North Country. Here's part of an article from the New York Herald from November 1920. Ogdensburg, New York. Anyone who would like to know whether liquor in large quantities is crossing the boundary from Canada into northern New York need only post himself on any road between Ogdensburg and Malone or Malone and Plattsburgh and watch it go by in caseloads. Running bootleg liquor is a thriving profession in these parts. It is conducted with little pretense of concealment, and scores of young men who are engaged in it are piling up more money than they ever possessed in their lives. Their cars go whizzing along the roads by day as well as night. Their fear of arrest and confiscation appears so slight that on their night runs they keep their headlights at full tilt, and the bolder of them, instead of keeping to secluded roads, run their cars through the largest towns in plain sight of such officials as care to see.
Headlights at full tilt down Main Street. That's quite an image. So didn't anyone, believe in this new law?
Oh, sure. Lots of people did, especially Protestants. Here's Reverend Albert of the Potsdam Presbyterian Church. These liquor criminals in our midst who ride in big sedans and high-powered cars pretend they believe in laws, particularly when it is to their advantage. But they trample it underfoot when it suits their purpose. They belong behind stone walls and iron bars.
These liquor criminals.
I know. It sounds so silly, but I found myself thinking about the drug lords of our time, crossing borders with whatever they're trying to get in. How do we as a country regulate something that's forbidden?
Yeah, well, we certainly haven't figured that one out yet.
And Reagan doesn't try to in his book. He's put together a collection of newspaper articles from the 1920s with a bit of commentary.
So if you want to know more about Prohibition...
There are many books out there about this time period. Prohibition lasted for 13 years. Really long time.
Yeah.
Reagan's book is an introduction to the topic, and of course, we are always more interested in things that happened locally than far away.
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? Well, hey, thanks for coming in today, Betsy.
It was my pleasure, Todd.
Our book reviewer, Betsy Capus, lives, reads, and writes in Colton. James Reagan's new book is called Booze, Bad Boys, and Bootleggers.
You're listening to Northern Light right here on North Country Public Radio. It's just about 8:25. Good morning. I'm Monica Sandreski here with Todd Moe, and we're going to pivot now to a song that's a little bit on theme from the conversation that we just heard. It's called Still Drunk, Still Crazy, Still Blue by Scott H. Byram. He's a singer-songwriter who offers up a unique blend of real country and old-school acoustic blues, even a little bit of punk sometimes, and he's performing this Friday, October 13th at the Waterhole in Saranac Lake. Here's his song, Still Drunk, Still Crazy, Still Blue.
Well, the broken part of me and this trouble so hard and this washed up way of living since we've been apart, and after all we've been through, and even after I lost you, I'm still drunk, I'm still crazy, I'm still blue. Sweat gets so cold, alone every night. There ain't nothing on TV, you know nothing ain't right. I've been rolling and rolling, honey, all the night through. I'm still drunk, I'm still crazy, I'm still blue. I'm still drunk, I'm still blue, I'm still all tore up over you. I'm still stoned, I'm still alone, I'm still wrong. Well, the wasted part of me and this trouble so hard, well, the wasted part of you is your half-filled up heart. We've been rolling and rolling, honey, all our lives through. Still drunk, still crazy, still blue. I'm still drunk, I'm still crazy, I'm still blue.
Scott H. Byram, his song Still Drunk, Still Crazy, Still Blue. He's performing this Friday night at the Waterhole in Saranac Lake.
It's coming up on 28 minutes past 8, and thanks for listening to Northern Light on this Wednesday morning. Thank you for supporting this program as well. Our fundraiser is happening right now. Music and conversation and profiles of musicians and artists, all part of Northern Light that you and the whole community depend on. We depend on donations to keep it going. Make a donation to keep NCPR strong for everyone. ncpr.org/give.
I don't know about you, but I know that I rely on Northern Light and North Country Public Radio to really help me better understand the community that we all live in. To pull back the curtain a little bit, I mean, that is something that Todd and I and the whole newsroom are really thinking about. How do we be a better reflection and a mirror of what the North Country is like? That's what you hear here on North Country Public Radio. That's what you hear on Northern Light. It is an invaluable resource. That is why I give to support NCPR. You be next. Give now at ncpr.org. ncpr.org/give or call 877-388-6277. Join with Craig Allen in Bristol, Vermont, Ed Lavernway and Karen Cross in Ogdensburg, Sandra and Tyler Harrison in Brazier Falls, who all said yes to North Country Public Radio. This resource matters to me, and I want to keep it strong for my neighbors, for my family, for my children, and for generations to come. Give now online at ncpr.org/give or call 877-388-6277. You can hear the theme music. That is it for the show for the day. Morning Edition continues in just a minute. Till tomorrow, I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe. Thanks for your support. Be well.